So yeah, a total of 5 were taken from the pile. 1 is deceased and not transported. We have 1 that was transported by a ground ambulance in acute status, 1 transported by air ambulance in acute status, and then 2 minor status patients. 1 was transported to the hospital by ambulance, and 1 declined treatment.
What do we know about the relationship between these 5 folks? Were they a family? Are they from out of town? Visitors? Anything at all?
Yeah, we don't know that just yet, and I'll be able to give you more details at the next briefing.
And any particular reason why they set up right there?
No, no idea.
You said there are search dogs. Tell us a little bit more about that.
We do have search dogs that are en route here. Yeah, 2 of them.
Is that because it's too dangerous for people to search?
That's correct right now.
We heard there were people who are trapped down there and can't get up. Is that true? That people, or did it mean that people are actually might still be there?
More on
Yeah.
the materials. Chief Ketterer and myself here have had experience with several cliff collapses in the past. This material is very heavy Tory sandstone. It's a very thick slab that's come down onto the beach, and it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to have to be broken apart or moved by a tractor. It's that heavy. So we don't know what's underneath it, but we have to make sure.
Larry, can you tell us where the collapse was in relation to the steps here?
The collapse is approximately within 100 feet north of the Grandview staircase on the beach, at the base of the bluff.
And the people, how far away from the bluff were they?
I wasn't privy to that at the incident. I wasn't on scene, so the chief will have to come back with that information.
Was this an area that collapsed in the past?
This area has a low frequency of collapse. This whole coastline, again, is susceptible to natural erosion. So apparently that's what it appears that happened today.
Was there a seawall below or anything?
There's no seawalls in this area.
This is just spitballing here. Could this collapse have anything to do with the pounding that they're taking over at Pono Beach with that new hotel going in?
No. The proximity of this is pretty far away.
Do you know square foot wise, like any idea how big? I haven't seen it. How big of an area this covers on the beach?
Again, the fire chief mentioned it's about 30 feet.
Breaking news tonight, one person confirmed dead in a Bluff collapse on a Leucadia beach. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
And I'm Barbara Lee Edwards. Several others were hurt. At least 3 people were taken to the hospital tonight. A search is underway for more victims. We have team coverage.
News 8's Angie Lee spoke with witnesses, but first let's go to our Abby Alford with what authorities just had to say in a news conference. Abby?
Carlo and Barbara Lee, a heartbreaking scene right now. We are just above Grandview Beach, where at the bottom of the stairs, about 20 yards north, is where this bluff collapsed. And behind us, you can see that there are still rescue crews still here on the scene. They are down there at the bottom of the beach where this bluff collapsed and killed 1 person and injuring 4 others. The rescue department, the lifeguard, says that around 2:50 this afternoon is when this bluff collapsed. They say it was a large slab and it was very heavy, and it fell right there down at the bottom of the beach, injuring 5 people, including 1 person who died. The rescue crews tell us that there were 1 person died. There were 2 that were transported. 1 was transported by air ambulance with acute injuries, as well as another person was transported by ground ambulance with acute. They also say that there were 2 others who were received minor injuries. 1 was transported. Another one declined treatment. Now, they tell us that the perimeter of this bluff collapse that fell right down on the beach as 5 people were hanging out on the beach is about 25 feet by 30 feet wide and probably about 10 feet high. They say that there are still large boulders down there at the bottom of the beach. This is a very popular place where many people swim and surf, and as well as many people that hang out. The State Parks Department says that often you will not see bluff collapses in this area of Encinitas. They say you'll see it further south in the Torrey Pines area. So to see this type of bluff collapse is very unusual. They are down there right now still checking out the scene. There are no more active rescues, but they are still searching through that rubble, trying to break it apart, because they say that slab is incredibly heavy. And as we also know that the rescue crews, they gave us an update about a half hour ago, and they plan to do another news conference to update us, because we do not know the ages of any of the victims, who they are, if they were all together as a family or if they were separate groups. But as we learn more information, we will keep you updated, and we will carry that news conference right here on News 8 at 5. But my colleague, Angie Lee, she lives here in Encinitas, and she came down here right when she heard about it. She was able to talk to witnesses, and it's just a heartbreaking scene right now. Angie?
Thanks, Abby. This beach break is very close to home for me. My boys surf here at Grandview. So when this happened, all of my kids' friends were getting text messages to what was happening. As soon as I arrived here, this entire stretch of Neptune Avenue was blocked off. Witnesses were startled, as you can imagine. In fact, we ran into a number of friends that we personally know to ask them what they saw, what they heard. A lot of them shaken up, making sure that their kids were not down there at the time. If I can give you a sort of a clearer picture of just exactly where this happened, it is right at the bottom of Grandview Stairs. And if you've ever been here, the stairs are pretty a long trek down there. As you get down to the bottom, the lifeguards are to your right, and it occurred just right north of the lifeguard station right there, and that is a popular spot where people set up their chairs and umbrellas and lay out in the sun and enjoy watching their kids get on a boogie board or surf right in front. Locals refer to that particular little spot as sandbags, locals that surf here. So obviously witnesses that we spoke to were in shock. Some of them did not want to talk to me on camera. A lot of them just startled, frozen in fear. One gentleman we spoke to said he actually was not surprised that it occurred. In fact, he says that he kind of saw it coming with, you know, the erosion of the bluffs here along the North County coast. Here's what he had to say. anyways, that witness we spoke to said that he was not surprised, but it was high tide at the time when this occurred, just around 2:54. So he wonders if the high tide had anything to do with it. As far as just the number of people that were down there at the beach, it's unclear just how many people, but I can tell you generally from just coming down here to Grandview, there's usually a good number of 20 to 25 people perched up, enjoying the ocean. In fact, my boys went out for a surf session early this morning, and we're just about to return this afternoon when this occurred. Obviously, we are all in shock. Our hearts are going to the families that are involved, especially the person that lost their lives. At this point, one person has died, unfortunately. It is devastating news, and 4 others are injured. In fact, when we talked to the lifeguards, what they did say was that this particular bluff has a really, really hard Tory sandstone. He said it is so heavy that they will have to literally break apart the mound that's there. In fact, they will have to most likely bring in a tractor. I can tell you right now, just about 3 minutes ago, we did see a search dog, which we were told that the search dogs were called in. So we imagine they're down there below, obviously doing what they can. They want to make sure they have a head count of who is down there. They currently only told us 5 people were involved. 4 survived, but there could be possibly more. Obviously, as this develops, we will keep you posted. But this is a very, very popular break for locals, but it's also become a very tourist-friendly break because of social media. In fact, a lot of local surfers down in Grandview complain that all of the hashtags and the geolocation sites for Grandview has brought in so many tourists to the site, which normally is not known. So it's very popular now more than ever. The parking lot is usually super packed, and it was a very busy day and very hot day as well. So right now, as it stands, this stretch of Neptune all the way to Grandview is closed off. A lot of the people that were here surfing are still here, kind of trapped with their cars in the parking lot. But for right now, I can tell you the mood is very somber. It's very difficult to sort of gather because this is something that none of us expected today. Unfortunately, it did, and we are doing the best we can to gather as much information as we can. That's the latest from Grandview. We'll go back to you now.
All right, Angie, thank you very much. We're going to go up to the sky now. Deb Henke is live in Chop right above that bluff collapse. You can see all the crews still standing far back from where this happened, Deb, because they really don't know how structurally sound the rest of it is at this point, if there's going to be an aftershock, so to speak.
Yeah, quite true, Barbara Lee. In fact, we were flying about 1,000 feet, which is our typical altitude, and we were asked to climb a bit higher, so we're closer to 1,800 right now above the scene. Angie painted the picture very well. Obviously, she's very familiar with this beach, which is very popular with locals. There's the Grandview stairs that she mentioned and the lifeguard tower, and then where this collapse happened, just north of that lifeguard tower, about 20 yards. She also mentioned this dog that they brought in, this cadaver dog, I presume here, and there you can see we saw it running around the area where the cliff had collapsed, and now back with its trainers. And those folks in orange shirts, they just got here about half an hour, 45 minutes ago, these engineers, we presume. And again, we were asked to climb a bit higher because they were trying to listen and assess the condition of the bluffs at this point. You can see this huge area that they have taped off, and there are a lot of people that are still on the beach watching what's happening, but it has definitely cleared out from the scene we saw about an hour and a half ago. In fact, just within the last few minutes, the lifeguards and the fire crews pulled away the personal items from the people that were here right near the collapse here. Their beach chairs, we saw half a dozen beach chairs and boogie boards and beach towels and all the things you would bring to enjoy a day like today here along the shore. And just such a sad day, but a reminder of just how unstable this area can be and these bluffs are. So that's what it looks like from up above here at Grandview Beach in Encinitas. We'll send it back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Deb. To give those of you who aren't too familiar with the area a little better context, we'll show you where Grandview Surf Beach is. Encinitas to the south, Carlsbad a little bit to the north. We zoom into Neptune Avenue, and you'll see Grandview Surf Beach as our map. We lose that for a moment there. You'll see Grandview Surf Beach, and Angie was talking about, or I'm sorry, Abby was talking about a little bit earlier, the fact that this has become a very popular spot among Instagrammers, and that's because it has this iconic set of stairs that go down to the beach right there. People take pictures of it. It's perfect for posting. Just to the north of that is that lifeguard tower that Angie was telling us about, and you could see from Chopper 8. And just to the north of that, this is where the bluff collapsed. And as Abby told us, it was just a chunk that fell down. We're going to give you a little better perspective on that. This area is closed off right now as emergency crews are working the area. Unfortunately, Deb mentioned that they have a cadaver dog in there searching to make sure that there is no one left underneath that rubble. I want to give you a little bit better idea, though, of what this bluff looked like potentially before this happened. You can see this is a picture taken just from the north of the spot. As we zoom in a little bit, you can see in this image that right there, that's the lifeguard tower. Those are the stairs. This, when you look at the collapse, you can literally see the erosion below this base. It goes feet in to the cliff. So you can see how a chunk of what is basically rock would come falling down. This wasn't a bluff collapse with sand and mud falling down. This chunk did not have support and basically collapsed onto the beach. Angie mentioned it may have been high tide, and one of the issues here is that there's not a lot of beach out here, so people may have pushed back from the water a little bit and were too close to the bluff when it came down. Barb?
All right, Carlo, thanks. In other news tonight, we're hearing from both sides of the family of a young girl whom police say was killed by her own father. The suspect didn't make his first scheduled court appearance today because he remains jailed under observation. News 8's Brandon Lewis spoke with the family of the girl today about her tragic death and has
I think it's just disbelief. You walked in here yesterday morning and you would see a yard full of beautiful pallets.
Evelyn Moreno and her family helplessly watched as the fire engulfed their family-owned business of 20 years.
Anything that was, able to get out, we tried as much as we could to do.
San Diego firefighters battled the inferno late into the night, getting it contained around 3 in the morning.
Now you're just seeing ashes. There's no words, honestly.
This afternoon, crews continued putting out hot spots, trapped by charred debris, some of it still smoldering. The family will now have to rebuild their business from the ground up.
It is hard because all of this business that we've created has come from money from our pockets.
While so much was lost, neighbors are also thanking firefighters whose quick action, they say, kept this from being an even bigger devastation.
At the end there, the fire was so hot that they just trying to contain it to once so it wouldn't spread out to all the other yards there. And that's what they did. They did a good job, but it was hot.
And again, the fire department's arson team is investigating, and firefighters, while they were already out here for most of the day, they are still on scene here putting out hotspots and say they'll be back again tomorrow. Back to you.
All right, Monique, thank you. 4 Democratic presidential candidates will appear at the Unidos U.S. Conference, the nation's largest gathering of Latino leaders. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Senators Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, and Amy Klobuchar will address the concerns of Latino communities. The conversation with the candidates goes from 1 to 3 p.m. on Monday at the
And we're going to have, I'll have my captain here talk about what we're going to be doing with the debris that's on the beach. Before I turn it over to him, I just want to say that the city's and the fire department's thoughts and prayers are with the victims and the families of the victims right now, and we hope that they do okay. So right now, I'll turn it over to Larry.
Do the people on the beach report anyone missing now that they know of, or is everyone accounted for who's on the beach?
We have a couple. We have a couple different stories, so we don't exactly know.
Are you able to tell us if the victims were local or visiting, perhaps?
We're still gathering that information.
And then any details on, unfortunately, the deceased person? Have you guys been able to get the body or anything yet?
Yeah, we have recovered the body, and the medical examiner's on the way.
How big an area is this that's collapsed?
Yeah, so it's about, the area is about 25 feet by 30 feet, probably at its highest about 10 feet high, and the engineer has estimated it to be about 15 to 20 cubic yards of material.
Okay, at this time, the beach area is closed down from approximately Ponto Beach area on the Leucadia-Carlsbad border and several hundred yards to the south of the Grandview Beach access here. It'll be shut down. We're having heavy equipment coming into the area to help remove some of the debris in there. At this time, we have dog teams down on the beach. They're doing a cursory search, and they're trying to find out if we have anybody else left underneath that debris pile. Additionally, the tide is going to be one of the higher tides of the year tonight. So the rescue operations are going to be a little technical, a little difficult. We're plenty of resources coming in. We have a lot of mutual aid agencies coming from all over the county to help us get through this. California State Parks, Sheriff Department, San Diego Fire Rescue, multiple other neighboring agencies all helping out. Lifeguards are going to be keeping the beach clear so they can continue to work in this area. We ask that the public help us and stay out of that area until we can get it done and searched.
Will this continue into the night?
This will continue to the point where it becomes unsafe for the teams to get in there and do their work.
Now, has any of the engineers made an assessment as to the stability of the rest of the bluff?
Yes, they have. We had a soil engineer come in and assess. We do have concerns. There is an area in there that is still unstable. We're concerned about a secondary collapse. He's reassured us that the homes on the bluff are far enough back, way out of the way, that there's no structural problems or concerns of these homes up on top of the bluff. It has nothing to do with those at this particular time.
Now, when they start the soil removal, will they have to do what do they call it? They'll have to reinforce the bluff?
Now, this is the material is extremely dense, heavy Torrey and Del Mar sandstone formation. That's a local formation you see at Black's Beach, along Carlsbad, Encinitas, Solana Beach, and Del Mar. This material is very, very heavy. You can't move it unless you have heavy equipment. So teams are going to come in and slowly and meticulously break it apart to see if we have anybody underneath there.
The area you said you guys are a little concerned about still, could you describe where it is in relation to the existing collapse?
That is directly adjacent behind where the material basically slabbed off the cliff and landed on the beach. That's the area of concern right now.
And could you maybe just describe some of those tools you guys use? These are obviously very complex rescue situations. What are some of the things you guys utilize today?
Well, starting with the basic hand tools, buckets, things like that the first responders came in. Fire department, special rescue folks came in with some airbags to move some of the heavier equipment or debris off of some of the victims. And then we're going to continue with heavy equipment, front end loaders, things like that.
Was there any seismic activity prior to this bluff collapse? Will we know anything like that?
We're not aware of anything like that. No reports. Our city engineer didn't bring anything up like that. Our soil engineer.
Captain, in your career, sir, have you ever seen a collapse like this before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've dealt with this before.
Worse? You've seen worse?
Yeah, unfortunately,
okay.
yes. So at this time, I have State Park Chief Brian Ketter. He's also had some experience in this, and he's going to cover the natural eroding coastline issues and things like that, and hopefully we can get more information out on public safety stuff. So, Chief Ketter?
As Captain Giles mentioned, this is a natural occurring event. All of these bluffs have water seepage. It's sandstone that sits on other soils and then sandstone again. So this is a reoccurring event. It should be noted that our lifeguards, both state and city, make active preventative contacts to people that sit along the bluffs. We have signage on most of our beaches that say stay back from the bluffs, just because it is so active, and we never know when these things are going to happen. Again, as he said, it's a Del Mar Torrey Pine sandstone. It's very heavy, it's very dense. When you asked about hand tools, we train with fire on entrapment issues, so it's soft tools when we know that we have somebody buried, and it's hand tools. And now that we've gotten to this stage, cadaver dogs are going to ensure that we don't have any other victims that are under that, and then we'll slowly take it apart with heavy equipment.
What is a safe distance for people to keep in mind on the beach away from the bluffs?
I think when you listen to what the debris spoils were, they bounced about 30 feet out, so we try to keep everybody 25 to 40 feet away. It is difficult in these areas. People love Encinitas and Solana Beach and Del Mar, and you have the ocean on one side and the bluffs on the other, and it's just one of those things that you need to be aware of your tides, you need to be aware of where your children are playing, and just make sure that you find a safe spot on the beach, and as the tide comes up, move to a bigger or larger beach area, a more expansive beach area.
How often do you see a bluff collapse of this magnitude?
I would say we see bluff collapses are fairly common. Probably, I'm going to say, I'll guess 4 to 8 per year. Nothing of this magnitude, but we have had some in the past, both at San Alejo and farther down that have happened. And then you remember the recent ones at Del Mar that we had this spring. I'm going to turn it over to the sheriffs.
You guys covered a lot of it, but this is a very, very tragic event that we're all dealing with today. No one woke up thinking this would happen. So our hearts and prayers are with the families today. So we're just doing the best that we can to get through this today.
We were told there's some counseling being done down there. I mean, just witnesses. Obviously, this is something traumatic to see. Anything that you guys are doing to work with other people just who saw something like this happen?
We have tips. Our trauma intervention, they are en route here to be there be a support with the families. I think we have another group that's down.
Yes, and so, I mean, these are very difficult situations for fire, lifeguards, park rangers, from all these agencies, and so they're very traumatic. And so we're helping those folks out that were first in. And so we have some specialists coming in to check them out and make sure they're in good health.
And then I think it is important, like the lieutenant said, that we do have tips coming in for any members of the public that witness the event or are having a hard time with it. They'll be here to answer questions, just walk through the process.
So with this bluff collapse here, will the geologist look at any other parts of the bluff? I mean, we always know that there are roads.
Yes, our soil engineer has already come down. He's walked the beach extensively in the area and gave us a really good size up. His main concern right now is just that one area. This is a naturally eroding coastline. There's really no rhyme or reason, but that's what it does naturally. And so you're down here, high tides, surf, and this is sandstone, and this is what it does, and this is how our beaches are actually partially made. It actually has these failures, and it develops sand on these beaches.
Back to the victims briefly, if you could. I know you weren't quite ready to share age ranges or identities. Is there any way to just share if children were involved at all?
So the sheriff department is the lead on that. I have to turn it back over to her.
Yeah, at this time, I wish I had more info for you in regards to the victim. We do not have an age on the victim. We do know it is an adult female, but that's the only information that we have. So the medical examiner is headed, they're en route right now, and then they'll be able to give you any additional info on that.
Were children among any of the injured?
No.
Did it all appear to be one group of people that were together, one party?
That we don't know. We haven't confirmed that.
Anything else you'd like the public to know?
We'll give better safety briefing on what to do in the future when you come down on these beaches across the California coastline. This isn't just isolated to Encinitas. This happens up and down the entire coastline, and it's a natural occurrence, and we just want to get good information out so people can have good information to make good decisions on when they go to the beach.
Do they do like a regular assessment of the coastline in highly populated areas, or do they are there any telltale signs of what may happen?
You're talking about the engineer folks?
Yeah, the engineer.
Yes. Well, the city is very active. Our soils engineer that we have on staff has been here for decades. He's very knowledgeable, and the city examines these bluffs routinely.
How long will the beach be closed, just so the public knows as well? Will it last into the weekend at all?
It all depends on how we get through this process of clearing the area. Again, we'll talk to the soil engineer on that. And then the other thing, every single day, these lifeguards in the San Diego County area are chronically patrolling these beaches, and they chronically report anything that they see that they think is a potential. And so those are your first go-to folks. I mean, we case this beach back and forth every day, and that's part of the safety assessment that we do here amongst all the lifeguard agencies.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you all so much.
What time do you want to come back? Do you want to give a...
I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you need anything else? Or
You guys
an hour? You guys good
Just
for a while?
get your first name.
Mike.
It's Mike, Captain.
Fire chief. Yeah.
So don't come back. You guys are fine with this?
That was the latest from Encinitas rescuers, including the Sheriff's Department, on the fatal bluff collapse at Grandview Beach, confirming that the victim is in fact an adult female. We are going to continue to cover this.
2 people seriously injured. We have crews on the scene. We will have more. Stay with us.
Bluff collapse in Encinitas at Grandview Beach.
Our Abby Alford is live on the scene. She has the latest from first responders on the efforts there to search the rubble and what's happened. Abby?
Carlo and Barbara Lee, we are live here at the top of the stairs at Grandview Beach, and below it is where this heartbreaking scene happened, where a bluff collapsed, killing one person and injuring 4 others. Live with us tonight is Captain Larry Giles with the Encinitas lifeguards. And Captain, can you kind of explain what happened earlier today?
Yeah, around approximately 2:52 this afternoon, there was a lifeguard at the lifeguard tower at Grandview Beach, heard a significant bluff collapse, and unfortunately it landed on a group of beachgoers just adjacent to his tower.
And with that, I mean, when you guys got called here, you learned that did you guys have any idea how many people were underneath?
The lifeguard in the tower was just adjacent to the failure and immediately started assessing and responding. He called for additional resources over the radio. Multiple units came in. He was trying to get an assessment on how many people were involved. There were some beachgoers that came in and assisted the lifeguard. He was just there by himself doing what he could. So the resources that we had after that incident and his size up was significant from around the county. County sheriffs, other neighboring fire and lifeguard agencies all came to the aid, and some special dog search and rescue teams from the sheriff department and from the city of San Diego Fire and Rescue all responded. And a large contingent from the California State Park lifeguards and rangers came in and assisted on this. 5 people involved.
And then we know that this just didn't crumble down. It was a large one slab that had come and fell off the cliff.
Yeah, from what it appears, there was a large, thick slab of this Torrey sandstone Del Mar formation, heavy, dense sandstone that peeled off the side of the cliff and landed down on the beach.
Now, erosion is not uncommon here on the San Diego coastline, but kind of in this area it is.
So the San Diego coastline and many of the rest of the coastline in California, it's a naturally occurring cause, just natural erosion of these sandstone and these coastal bluffs. So it's not a surprise. We do post a lot, and we're chronically contacting people, advising them, and they choose to sit there based off of what they feel is a risk or not.
And Captain, I think we need to really talk about the huge threat tonight is that high tide.
Yeah, so we have a 7.1 tide tonight coming in, and our concern is with the tractor work and the dog teams, we're going to be a little hampered with that. We may get pressured out because of the tides. We're expecting the tide to come all the way up against the cliff with surf, and so we cannot 100% clear that area right now. There's still a large section of the slab down there that we can't account for what's underneath it.
So does that mean you guys are still in a recovery effort?
At this point, yes, we're in a recovery effort, and we just want to make sure that the area is clear.
And I mean, with that can make the cliff even more vulnerable, so there could be more erosion.
So our soil engineer that we contract out with has already been here, has given us a great assessment. He is concerned for a secondary collapse in that immediate area. We'll continue to keep that area cordoned off. He's cleared the areas to the north and south. At this time, they appear to be stable, according to his estimate. And so we're going to be taking the lead from these folks that are the expert soil engineers on what to do next.
And the beach is closed from where?
The beach right now is going to be closed from the Leucadia-Carlsbad border on the north side, and then several hundred yards to the south of the Grandview Beach access here in Leucadia.
Captain, you've been here for many, many years. Bluff collapses are, not uncommon, but this is just heartbreaking.
Yes, we have these natural, erosion events that occur here in Encinitas throughout the year and elsewhere, and unfortunately today, basically, somebody was underneath it.
Thank you so much. That was Captain Larry Giles with the Encinitas lifeguards. Just before we went on air, there was a news conference that also with the Sheriff's Department, and they confirmed that one person who died in this bluff collapse is an adult female, but we are still working to find out details if the 5 that were injured, including the one that died, were a family, if they were all together or if they were separate, who they are. We know that there was just a family member who just arrived here on scene scene shaken up. They were then taken behind the tape. They were told that they were family members. We heard them say that they were. We could see tears in their eyes. And as you can imagine, we know that there's these bluff collapses here, but you just don't know when it'll happen, how far it will happen. But you can see the rescue department is still here on scene, and we will be here all night long because that high tide does pose a threat. And as we learn more information, we are dedicated to giving you an update right here on News 8, as well as on our social media and our websites. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Abby. That's the very latest from Grandview Beach. Please stay with us.
We'll be right back with more after this.
So, Bob, what do you take for back pain?
Before I take anything, I apply topical pain relievers first. Salonpas lidocaine patch blocks pain receptors for effective, non-addictive relief. Salonpas lidocaine patch, roll-on, or cream.
Tragedy at a North County beach when a bluff crashed onto people enjoying the day. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
And I'm Barbara Lee Edwards. It happened around 3 o'clock today at Grandview Surf Beach in Encinitas. Here's what we know so far. 1 person died at the scene. 4 others were injured. 3 were taken to the hospital. And search dogs are checking to make sure no one else is trapped underneath that rubble.
We have team coverage tonight. We're going to begin with News 8's Abby Alford, who is live at the scene with the latest information from first responders. Abby.
Carlo and Barbara Lee, we are live here in Encinitas at the top of the stairs of Grandview Beach. At the bottom of the stairs, about 20 yards, or excuse me, but yes, about 20 yards north is where they say that this bluff collapsed on top of 5 people. The Sheriff's Department confirms that it was 1 adult female who died. There were 4 others who were injured. 3 people were transported to the hospital, and 1 declined any type of treatment. They say that the Sheriff's Department and the lifeguards and state parks all responded to this scene around 2:50 this evening. The nearby lifeguards also responded. There were also witnesses who saw this happen who ran in to try to help rescue this group of people. Now, the Sheriff's Department has not confirmed if this was a family or not that was involved, if they were strangers, if they were vacationers, or if they are local people that live here in Encinitas. One of the biggest threats tonight is that there's going to be a high tide at 7.1 feet, and they say that that could make these bluffs vulnerable, and there could be a secondary collapse, but as well as that they do have equipment down there. They have the area of Leucadia and the Carlsbad Beach all the way down about 100 yards south of Grandview Beach blocked off as they continue these recovery efforts, is what they're calling it. They have equipment down there that we're trying to lift the slab because they say that bluff that collapsed came in all one piece dropping down onto the beach, and so now they're just trying to pick up the pieces and any type of the rubble. They say that they are still in a recovery effort, but that does not mean that they believe that there are any people underneath that slab. They believe everyone is accounted for, but they're still trying to work with that. And with that tide at 7 feet tonight at 10:52, they feel that this could threaten their rescue and recovery efforts.
With the tractor work and the dog teams, we're going to be a little hampered with that. We may get pressured out because of the tides. We're expecting the tide to come all the way up against the cliff with surf, and so we cannot 100% clear that area right now. There's still a large section of the slab down there that we can't account for what's underneath it.
The Sheriff's Department does not believe that there are any other victims, but again, they're still checking. They do have canine search dogs that are down there as well. And with this bluff collapse, when we think about what's on top of it, and there are homes and condos that are on top of these bluffs, but they do not believe that with this erosion that they believe that there's any structural damage. But we are going to stay on this story throughout the night, especially when we hear that that tide is hitting about 10:52. And as we learn more information, we will keep you updated right here on News 8. And as you can imagine, we've seen many of the beachgoers coming up from the stairs very shaken and not wanting to talk about this because it was traumatic for them, as you can imagine. But my colleague here at News 8 is Angie Lee. She's live here tonight. She's been talking to some of those witnesses and those people that have lived here for so long, and it's just heartbreaking to see this type of incident. Angie?
And Abby, an emotionally tough day here in Encinitas. Hearts are very heavy, as I am a very local resident here and local to this beach break, particularly Grandview. My family surfs here on a daily basis. In fact, my boys surfed this morning, and we were just about to head back here this afternoon. And just to think that if I was sitting there in that very spot, this could have happened to me or anybody else in that area. And it did happen to a family. A woman lost her life, and a family utterly devastated. We talked to one witness. He says that he was working from home. His unit is literally just a couple of steps away from the beach, and he said he heard siren after siren, and that's when he saw Encinitas Life firefighters rushing down the stairs with shovels in their hands. He says what he saw looked like half a house on the side of the beach there, and this is what he noticed.
I noticed that their family was over off the side being counseled, and it was a large group of people, maybe at least, I would say a dozen, maybe more. Half of them children, down to 5 to preteens and several adults. And clearly they were shaken and distraught what happened too. I don't know them personally, but I really felt sorry for them, and everyone around was just like a calm sense, you know what I mean, of like panic, you know what I mean? And like, what do you do? And there's nothing you really can do other than just pray and hope everything goes okay.
And right now, everyone is praying for this family. Jeff says the hardest part was to sit and watch as the families were just in utter devastation. You can only imagine what they must have been going through. A very, very difficult day. This is a very popular beach break. It's become more popular over time. Grandview is a bit hidden off of Coast Highway, unlike Beacons, Ponto, or Moonlight Beach, but more and more people have started to come here. Right now, we don't know if this family was local or if they were visiting from out of town, but I can tell you that that very spot where this family was, or where the people were sitting, is called Sandbags. It's a very popular beach break. Grandview is right next to it, so if you're a local, you know that that is the break that you serve. And there's not much real estate on this beach, just in case you're wondering. It's unlike Moonlight or other beach breaks. This stretch of beach is very narrow, so a lot of people, it's not uncommon for them to set up their beach chairs and towels. But a very, very difficult night here in Encinitas. A lot of families just gathering around and praying for this one family who's utterly has now lost a loved one. Back to you.
We've got an overhead view of the scene here, and a really grim scene indeed, as they've brought in a front loader, and you can see the tide is starting to get higher from where it was earlier this afternoon when this first happened. So this front loader was brought in to try to move some of this heavy sandstone that fell down from the bluff. We were able to zoom in a little bit when we were off the air and get a little closer look at what was happening, and we could indeed see the body of the woman look like probably sitting in a beach chair, just enjoying this gorgeous day when this happened, when this tragic situation happened. And they are now trying to recover that body. Again, you can see the front loader that helped to move some of that heavy sandstone, and now crews are just in there digging away and trying to completely free that person and remove the body. But that is the scene, again, a very grim scene here as they watch the work that's going on here. And again, you can see this tide as it starts to roll in. And that's the very latest from up above in Chopper 8. We'll send it back to you at the desk.
All right, thanks, Deb. Tonight, we're hearing from both sides of the family of a young North County girl who police say was killed by her own father.
The suspect, 27-year-old Pedro Araujo, didn't make his scheduled arrangement.